Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're watching. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer, and this is the Asylum Answers Show. TikTok, how are you? LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Brian Manning. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers, and we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. That's all we do is asylum all day, every day, and we help clients all over the country. You don't have to be in Texas where we're based. We got lots of clients in Texas, tons in California, lots in Florida, New York, Chicago, everywhere in between. All right. So let me know what you want to know about winning asylum in the United States. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm an asylum lawyer, but I'm also an ex-asylum officer with the government. That means I was the person on the other side of the desk, right? The person who did the asylum interviews and made asylum determinations. So I bring this perspective, this insider experience to bear and leverage it to help our clients create and present the strongest possible asylum case, maximizing their chances for asylum success. And I want to answer your questions today about asylum in America. Say hello, first of all. Let me know in the chat, in the comments. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. We already got HUD says, good morning, Brian. I'm watching from Seattle on YouTube. Nice. Glad to have you with us. We got Be Yourself. We got on TikTok, Sebastian. We got Idris Official. Lots of folks joining, getting on the stream, the live show, Asylum Answer Show. I'm Brian Manning, and I'm here to answer your questions about asylum in America. All right. So let me know what questions you have. All right. And first, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. All right. So before I get to your questions, I want to talk about this, why it's so crucial to do a full-scale mock asylum interview before you have your real interview. What do I mean by mock interview? It's like a simulated interview, a practice interview. When I was an asylum officer with USCIS, I was very surprised to see just how little pretty much all lawyers did to actually help their clients prepare for their interview. Well, I was surprised to see how little they did in general. Most asylum lawyers, most immigration lawyers do virtually nothing to really help their client's case. They take very little effort and don't really know what they're talking about, most of them, sadly. But I was shocked that their clients were coming into the interview completely unprepared. They had this deer in the headlights look, an expression that we have to say that they looked like they were really surprised at the kind of questions that I was asking them. Like they didn't expect to be asked the kinds of questions that I was asking. And their lawyer had obviously not done a good job of preparing them. You see, how you prepare for your asylum interview can make a drastic difference in how well you perform. And how you perform at your asylum interview, that's everything, right? I mean, that's the most important part of your case. So, listen, a mock interview, a full-scale practice interview like we do with our clients it's key. In fact, I think most of our clients would tell you that they think that it was the most important part of the whole representation of everything that we did for them. I think our clients will tell you, oh, that practice interview, the mock interview, that was the most important. That was the key to winning my case. What is it and why is it such a big deal? We do everything that you're going to experience on the day of the real interview from beginning to end, everything. Basically, the lawyer doing it with you says, listen, I'm going to flip the switch, and I'm going to go into play the character of the asylum officer, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to pause until we get to the very, very end. We're going to go all the way through, just like a real interview, beginning to end, everything. And because of this, when it comes time for the real interview, you feel like you've done it before. And listen, any challenging, very important thing that we have to do, any consequential thing that we have to do feels more daunting, more intimidating, more scary if we don't really know what we're getting into. When it's an unknown to us, there's more anxiety. And when there's more anxiety, you're not going to perform as well, okay? So going through this whole practice interview from beginning to end gives you confidence because you feel like you've been there and you've done that. It's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what to expect because I feel like I've been there and I've done that. And Here's the thing that is really surprising to so many asylum seekers. The interview is very different than what you expect, because asylum seekers, they tend to think, okay, if I just sort of show up and, tell my story, I'll be fine. I therefore don't need to take any special efforts or, to prepare or to have a lawyer or anything like that. I'll show up and I'll answer questions and tell my story. It's easy. No, unfortunately, it's not like that at all. The officer is going to ask you question after question after question after question after question, super rapid fire. Okay. They're going to be changing topics frequently. They're going to be constantly interrupting you. They do not let you just say what you want to say and tell your story. They control the interview, and they're going to take it where they want it to go, which I promise you is not going to be the way that you want to express yourself and the way that you want to tell your story. So it's hard. Add on top of this the fact that many asylum officers are anti-immigrant, and they're just looking for excuses to be able to deny your case. How do they do that? Well, one very common sneaky tactic, one trick, is by trying to get you to make mistakes, to trip you up, so they can say that there were inconsistencies in your case. And if there's multiple inconsistencies, they can say, oh, there was too many inconsistencies, therefore you're not credible, therefore your case is denied. Okay? And they'll ask you tricky questions. They'll play little word games with you to try to trip you up, to try to trap you. They ask tricky questions, all right? Some of them are rude. Some of them are mean. Some of them try to bully you. Listen, not all of them. Some of them are perfectly professional, and some of them are even kind and generous. But a lot of them are not, honestly. It's my experience having worked at the asylum office and now as an asylum lawyer. My law firm, we're in the asylum office almost every day, right? Doing interviews for our clients. So we see a lot of this, and most of them are not polite. Most of them are not as professional and as they should be, in my opinion. So the point is, it's hard. The interview is harder than you expect. But with a practice interview that we do, at least, we give you this confidence, because you already know what kind of questions when it's time for the real interview, you already know what questions to expect. You know how it's going to feel to be in this position. And like I said, it's not easy. And so, the first time that you go through with our practice, you feel like, oh, okay, now I know what it's like. And you get that sort of intimidation factor out of the way in the practice session. And so you're much more relaxed and calm and ready to do a good job at the real interview. All right. You know what all the different procedures are for the day. You feel like you've been there and you've done it. And all of this gives you confidence and peace of mind. And then listen, after the mock interview, a day or two or three later, we'll do what we call a debrief session with you, where we give you our feedback about how you did. Listen, we don't put words in your mouth. We never say, you should say this. It's your story. You're going to tell it, but we're going to just encourage you and help you find ways to tell it in a clear, convincing way. We might say, hey, when I asked you about this certain thing, you said this answer, but it was kind of muddy. It wasn't real clear. You might want to consider, just sort of rephrasing it or trying to explain this in a different way. Here, practice it now. That's the kind of feedback that we give you to make sure that you do a good job. All right. And we give you just all of our best asylum tips. You know what? Listen, speaking of all this asylum interview stuff, I'm gonna drop a link in the comments. Free training. Go to asylumquestions.com. If you want to know what questions are going to be on the test, what questions you're going to get in your asylum interview, go get this free training. And it's based on my experience as a former asylum officer and now as an asylum lawyer. You can, I'm telling you in this training, the questions they're going to ask you. If you think it might be helpful to know ahead of time what questions are going to be on the exam, then you should take advantage of this free training that I'm offering at asylumquestions.com. Okay. All right. Listen, the point, before we get to your questions, the point is doing a full scale mock interview with an asylum lawyer can have a huge impact. In my opinion, and I think in my clients' experience, can have a huge impact on how well you're able to perform and tell your story and respond at your real asylum interview. That's why it's really, really important. All right. What questions do you have now about winning asylum in the United States? All right. Let's see what we got. We said Huds is in Seattle. We got Hadi says morning sir from Minnesota. Nice, Minnesota. I bet it's cold up there today. Greetings from New York. Jackson saved Dolus. Sorry for the mispronunciation. It's greetings from New York. Thank you for doing this. You're welcome. My pleasure. We got some questions. Morning from Chicago says Hadi Aslo. We got Francis who says hello. I'm watching from Texas. Nice. Good to see all you guys. Thank you for being with us on the Asylum Answer Show. For those who recently joined, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers, and we're based in Texas. But look, it doesn't really matter where we're based because we help people all over the country. We can help you whether you're in Texas, California, New York, Florida, Illinois. Doesn't matter where you are. Atlanta, Georgia. We help people all over the country. All right. And listen, if you want to talk with us about getting help potentially with your case, go to winasylum.com. That URL, the page where you can schedule a consultation with us, is winasylum.com. 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 All right. I checked, and we have some spots open still for tomorrow, for Friday. So if you jump on it right now, you can still snag one for Friday. Listen, the sooner that you can talk with an asylum professional and get insight and analysis and information about your situation, the better. Go schedule it right now. Go to winasylum.com to schedule it. A consultation with one of our asylum professionals. All right, let us go see what questions we got. Let us start on YouTube with Aaliyah says, my case was denied into immigration court and I was put into removal proceedings, but I applied my case as pending. Is there anything to worry about in Trump era? So you're saying, Aaliyah, you're saying that your case is pending in immigration court. Is there anything to worry about in the Trump era? Let me answer it like this. The question is this: should you be worried as an asylum seeker as we enter the second Trump era? And the answer is, yeah, listen, it is going to be harder to win asylum. I think for people, both for people in immigration court proceedings and in proceedings with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, the Asylum Office. Trump is going to implement policies, actual like rule changes that exclude entire groups or classes of people from being eligible for asylum. And he's going to keep out people from the southern border and make it much harder through regulations and policies for people that come to the southern border to get asylum. At the Asylum Office, I think it's going to be less profound, but it's still going to be an impact just because of the anti-immigrant atmosphere that he's going to bring with him. So yeah, you got to present as strong a case as possible to give yourself the best chance for asylum success. It's not going to be impossible to win asylum under Trump. We helped lots of people, under Trump last time. There's people that still win asylum despite Trump being president last time, and there's going to be this time. So it's not impossible, but you got to be up your game. You got to do better. Like, you got to present an airtight, super solid case, both in writing and in the way that you testify on the day of your asylum interview. Okay. I'm gay in Iraq, but never harmed. Yet I need asylum because we don't have our LGBTQ rights. Well, Waleed, if you're in Iraq, unfortunately, you can't apply for asylum yet. You have to be in the United States to apply for asylum. But I'm going to address your question. I think you made it sound like you're still in Iraq, but just wanted to let you know that how that works. But listen, here's the question is this: can you get asylum as a member of the LGBTQ plus community despite never having actually been harmed in the past? And the answer is, yeah, you definitely can. Listen, you can win asylum, not just LGBTQ plus persons, but rather anyone based on any of the 5 protected grounds can win asylum without any past harm, even without any past threats. Okay, you could do it based just on the future, on the likelihood that you're going to be persecuted because you possess one of the 5 protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law. For people from the LGBTQ plus community, you can do this by pointing out and leveraging and using convincingly what we call country conditions information reports from NGOs and governments and news organizations that basically show that, like, look, yeah, this is a serious problem. People in your position are widely systematically targeted. Therefore, you fitting this profile puts you at grave risk of persecution. So yeah, you can win based on this without any past harm or even any threats. Okay, we have success with this kind of case all the time. Okay, or frequently. So you should, if anyone who is afraid of being harmed because of their sexual identity or orientation should definitely contact us, because we've had a lot of success with these cases and we like helping people in this position. So we would love to talk with you. We would talk with you in the context of what we call an asylum strategy session. This is a consultation where one of our asylum professionals is going to go deep with you to understand you, to get to know you, your immigration goals, aspirations, get to know your case, of course, substantively, do an analysis to tell you whether we think that we're in a position to possibly be able to help you. If we think that we can, we're going to tell you how. We're going to explain to you the exact concrete steps that we're going to take to give you the best possible chance of securing your future in America through asylum. So if you want to schedule an asylum strategy session with us, go right now to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, okay? So yeah, listen, to go back, Waleed, as a gay person from Iraq, yeah, you have a decent, there's a chance for winning asylum, okay? As a gay person from Iraq, even though you've never been harmed and maybe you've never been threatened, maybe there's no one out there that is actively, thinking, oh, I'm gonna harm Waleed when he comes back. You may still be able to win asylum based just on the country conditions. I think we are pretty good at making these kinds of arguments in our legal brief that we do. This is where the legal brief is especially important, where we're using country conditions reports to say that under the applicable asylum standard, this constitutes what's called a pattern or practice of persecution of similarly situated persons in Iraq. I got to turn off those balloons and thumbs ups. How annoying. All right. Next question. Interesting. Zalem says, I have a pending asylum case with USCIS, and I'm trying to enlist into the U.S. Army National Guard. Will trying to enlist into the National Guard have an effect on my pending asylum case? Listen, I don't know what the rules are for being able to get into the military as an immigrant, but I can definitely answer the exact question you ask. And the question is this: will getting into the U.S. military or like the National Guard negatively or positively affect your pending asylum claim? Listen, if you're trying to get into the military, whether active duty or National Guard, you've got an asylum claim pending, you may be wondering whether those two things could affect each other. What I can say is that trying to get into or being in the U.S. military would not affect your asylum claim. It definitely will not affect it negatively. And it doesn't formally help it. It doesn't give you any kind of like bonus points or anything. But look, if the asylum officer knows that you are, or at least want to serve in the U.S., are serving or want to serve in the U.S. military, it can only help, right? At least at sort of a emotional level to be sort of a positive factor. It's not formally a positive factor, but it can only help in the officer's mind, right? Right. All right. All right. Good question. Thomas says, What happens if you have PTSD, poor mental health issues resulting from ill treatment, and your interview is not perfect, but you have convincing evidence, documentation of torture, health report? Good question. The question is this. What if you're unable to do a perfect job at your asylum interview because you're suffering from some mental health issues like PTSD or maybe other mental health issues that make it hard to do an asylum interview? And these problems were caused by the persecution that you endured. Well, can you still win your case? And the answer is that, yeah, you can still win. Listen, ideally, you would have a letter from a mental health provider that you've been seeing that talks about your condition and ties it back to the harm that you endured in your country, but also says, look, because of this state that they're in, they may have a hard time remembering things. They have a hard time talking about traumatic issues. Their memory might even be affected. Like if you have a doctor or a therapist who can say those things faithfully, honestly, accurately, then that can help sort of excuse some of the issues that come up in the interview. At least to some extent, it can be helpful. Okay. But yeah, you can still win. It's not impossible. All right. Without a perfect interview. Other evidence will help you. To be sure, the most important thing is what you say at your interview. That's more important than any evidence or country conditions information. But it all matters. But really, the interview, is the most important. All right, Jason says, how long is it going to take to get the interview letter from the Arlington Asylum office? Thanks, Jason, for asking the question. The question is this: how long will it take to get your asylum interview notice from USCIS? It actually may be really, really quick if you're applying right now. Listen, everyone knows of people who have been in the United States for many years waiting for an asylum interview, 4 years, 6 years, 10, 12 years. And there's still a massive backlog. However, due to the way that USCIS scheduling priorities work and the interplay between that and basically the fact that fewer people have been coming to the U.S. southern border, I know it might not sound like those two are related, but they are. The situation is such that people who are applying now and who've applied in the last few months for asylum, most people are getting their interviews right away. Many, many people are getting that interview notice within weeks of applying, within a few weeks of applying, with the interview set a few weeks later, such that their interview is like 1 to 3 months after they applied. So you got to be ready. You got to be ready to build and present your case right away. Okay. The Arlington Asylum Office in particular, let me just say all of them, all of the asylum offices are like this right now, to where there's a pretty good chance that you might get your interview very, very quickly. Okay. You might not, though. You have to be psychologically prepared when you apply for asylum for either outcome, for the fact that you might get it within weeks of applying, or it may be years. Okay. You need to go into the process psychologically prepared for that. Okay. Thinking that. Affirmative. My vlog says affirmative asylum without evidence. Is it possible to win the case? Yes. The answer is yes, but let me address it more thoroughly. The question is this: can you win your affirmative asylum case with USCIS without any evidence whatsoever? Yeah, you can. Listen, asylum officers are taught that you can win asylum, you can establish your credibility and win your case if the testimony that you give, what you say on the day of your interview, is detailed, consistent, and plausible. Those are the 3 words that are used in a court decision that talks about this. Actually, no, I think it's actually straight up in the law. In any event, that's the standard: detailed, consistent, and plausible. All right. And yeah, you can win without evidence. Of course, having evidence helps, right? It only can help if it's used well. It can back up what you're saying, and it helps. But when I was an asylum officer, I approved asylum for cases with no evidence, and I've seen it as an asylum lawyer now as well. Immigration court, it's possible, but it seems less common. Judges are a little more demanding on evidence, but at the asylum office, pretty common. So you're in good shape, okay? It's not the best shape if you don't have evidence, but what I'm saying is you can still win, all right? And listen, this is a big deal because a lot of times people will say, oh, Brian, they call me like 3 years after they've been here, and they're like, I didn't apply for asylum during my first year here because, I didn't have good evidence, or I didn't have enough evidence, or I didn't have any evidence. And that's a big mistake, right? Because You have the 1-year filing deadline, and you should definitely not apply for asylum. You should definitely not refrain from applying for asylum just because you don't have enough evidence or because you don't have any evidence, all right? Because the bottom line is you can win without evidence, all right? Huddy says, I've been waiting for 2.5 years in Chicago asylum office. Do you think it's right time now to sue the government? The question is this. If you've been waiting fewer than 3 years, but close to it, like 2.5 years for your asylum interview, should you sue the government in a mandamus lawsuit to try to force them to give you your interview? Listen, I would say wait till 3 years. I think there's a much higher chance for success once you cross that 3-year threshold. Listen, my law firm has filed a bunch of these asylum delay lawsuits in the last 1.5 years. And to date, at the time that I'm making this video, we haven't lost any of them. Past results don't guarantee future success. Okay. So understand that. But what I'm trying to say is we've done this a lot with success, and we have a pretty good feeling for the thresholds and how it should be done. And I would say, I recommend that you wait until 3 years. Okay. At the Los Angeles Asylum Office, we're telling people 5 years. Everywhere else right now, we're saying 3 years. All right. That's what I think. All right. Eunice says, is it a good idea to apply for a U visa with strong defensive asylum now? Secondly, I don't want PD from the prosecutor on the behalf of the U visa. Strong defense. Okay. Got it. Thanks. The question is this. Should you apply for another type of immigration benefit if you've got a pretty strong asylum case already? So for example, if you think you might be eligible for a U visa, or maybe it's, a business-based status or based on marriage, but you've got your asylum case pending, right? Whether it's at the asylum office or an immigration court, and you think your asylum case is pretty strong, should you go ahead and file for that other thing? Or just, say, forget about it. I'm just going to focus on my asylum case. You should file. Listen, you should talk with a lawyer who focuses on the kind of benefit that you think that you might qualify for, the kind of case that you think you're eligible to get a visa through or status through. And if you're eligible, if they think you have a pretty good chance of winning, you should apply for it. Listen, applying for that other stuff will not negatively affect your asylum case. And those other things, well, at least a green card that you could possibly get is better than asylum. So yeah, you should pursue it. It won't hurt your asylum case. Pursue both. Don't give up your asylum case. Pursue both. Okay. Do you think that is a Kurdish person likely to win asylum under the Trump administration in San Francisco? Look, it just, I mean, it's, I can't really say, oh, just because you're, a Kurd, you've got a good case. Got to know a lot more than that. Got to understand your situation to be able to tell you whether I think there's a chance for success. The fact that you're a Kurd it definitely won't hurt you. Yeah. All right. Jason says, I've been waiting for an asylum interview since January of 2023. Got it. Jason, I hope you're taking steps to prepare. Hope you're watching my YouTube channel. By the way, for those of you on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, if you want all my best stuff, you should go to our Political Asylum Lawyers YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search Political Asylum Lawyers. I've got lots of super detailed training videos there, tutorials. Some of them are really long and detailed about all kinds of stuff that you need to know about to give yourself the best possible chance to win your asylum case. All right. That's where it's at is YouTube. All right. We got on Yasin says on okay, Yasin, I got it. Quit spamming me. What about the Arlington, Virginia asylum office? How is the hope to win asylum there? The question is this. Is the Arlington asylum office a good place to be an asylum seeker? Do they have a high approval rate? Yeah, I like the Arlington asylum office. Listen, they consistently have among the higher approval rates among the nation. California overall is the best. San Francisco traditionally usually has the highest. The San Francisco office usually has the highest approval rate. Los Angeles is usually second or third highest overall. Arlington is around there too. It's like fourth or fifth overall, usually. So it's way better than the South. It's way better than Houston, where I was an asylum officer. It's way better than Miami. It's pretty good. Yeah, I think those officers tend to be fairly fair and reasonable, comparatively at least. So I like that office. All right, you're in a good spot. Good luck. Camel says, do you have to be threatened by the government in order to grant asylum? Good question. The question is this: to win asylum, do you have to show that the government in your home country is harming you or has threatened you? No. Listen, cases where the persecutor, the person that has harmed you and that you fear, is the government or the people like work for the government, those kinds of cases tend to be easier to win, because when the persecutor is not from the government, when it's what we call like a private citizen, you have to sort of take an extra step. You have to also show that the government is unable or unwilling to control the feared persecutor, which is to say, you got to show that either you tried to get help, like from the authorities, like from the police, and they wouldn't do it, they refused, or they couldn't do it, or you got to show that like reports demonstrate that the authorities in your country either like won't want to help you because they're corrupt, or they just don't care, or they're completely overwhelmed and overmatched and they can't be counted on to help you. Okay, so the bottom line is no. You don't have to show that the government is involved at all. But if it's a private persecutor, the case is a little bit harder in the sense that there's an extra element that you have to address, and your asylum lawyer should do this in their legal brief. Like in our legal brief, there's a section that's the unable or unwilling section, because that's the term that the law like uses. Is the question is, are the authorities unable or unwilling to control the feared persecutor? All right. And that's like a legal analysis that your asylum lawyer should do for you. Okay. All right. AJ says, hello, sir. I have an EB3 interview in Dubai in May 2025, but I have a pending asylum in New Jersey. My attorney said that I have a 90% chance to get approved. My concerns: how long should I stay outside to get my visa? Definitely not more than like 2 weeks. And I trust that you have a valid passport and advance parole document based on your pending asylum case that you're going to use to travel. You don't want to travel without advance parole, and you don't want to travel in my opinion, you should not travel with advance parole based on something other than your pending asylum case. Traveling on advance parole based on something other than your pending asylum case could jeopardize your pending asylum case. When you get back, they could consider it to have been withdrawn. Okay. If you have a strong chance for success with the EB3, actually, I guess AJ, I don't know what the 90% chance of getting approval is. Are you talking about your asylum case or your EB3 case? You would want to have high assurance that your EB3 will get approved to make it worth it. But if there's a good chance, then yeah, it's worth it to go get the EB3, even though you have probably a strong asylum case, I think is what you're saying. As I was saying earlier, I was alluding to earlier, you want to pursue every kind of status that you can possibly get that might lead to, like long-term immigration status here. So if you have a chance to get EB3 status, yeah, do that. All right. Are pending asylum cases under threat for deportation under Trump? The question is this: are you at risk of getting deported under the second Trump administration if you've got an asylum case pending with USCIS? Listen, I think the Trump administration is going to do some terrible things in the immigration space, and they're going to really come down hard on asylum seekers. They're going to make it harder to get asylum. It's going to be rough. But on this particular question, I'm happy to report that no, I don't think they're going to go try to deport people with a pending asylum case. There is a lot. Listen. If you don't have status, if your status you came in on has expired or you never had it to begin with, you technically could be put in deportation proceedings. But the policy of the government is to not do that until your asylum course has run its case with USCIS. I think they will continue to follow that policy. I have pretty high confidence in that. So that's good news for you, right? All right. Nice. Okay. Does the mandamus lawsuit risk asylum denial? Good question. Get this question all the time. Happy to address it here. The question is this: will suing the government in an asylum delay lawsuit to force them to give you your interview, will that hurt your underlying asylum case? Look, I get that this is a completely valid concern. I can understand why you would think this, that, like, look, if I sue, are they going to hold it against me at my asylum interview? Is the officer going to, be like, how dare you sue us? Who do you think you are? And like use it against you or hold it against you as like a negative thing in your case, your underlying asylum case. I understand that. That's completely reasonable to think that. But the answer, thankfully, is no. It's not going to affect your asylum case, neither positively nor negatively. It just won't have an impact. I say that with high confidence. We've done this a ton lately, this mandamus lawsuit. And I can tell you that it is not having an effect on the underlying asylum case. All right. So I say that with high confidence. You shouldn't worry. I do not worry at all from our clients about any negative impact on the asylum case of us suing to force the interview. All right. All right. Nice. Let's see what we got on TikTok. Good question. We got Cods says, what's the success rate after USCIS interview to go to immigration court for hearing? So good question. The question is this: what are your chances for success in immigration court after you've already been denied by USCIS? Not denied technically, but referred, right? You had an interview, an affirmative asylum interview with USCIS, and they said, you're not eligible for asylum. We're referring your case to immigration court. You go to immigration court. Are you likely to win there in court? The good news is that actually you're a lot more likely to win in court than at the asylum office. The asylum office used to have a higher approval rate, but for the last few years, it's been the opposite. The courts have had a higher approval rate than the asylum office. And I don't remember this statistic off the top of my head, but I do remember seeing pretty recently that of cases that were referred from USCIS to immigration court, some significant percentage went on to get approved by the immigration judge. In other words, effectively the immigration judge overturned, the decision of the asylum officer. So yeah, there's still hope. The bottom line is there's still hope in immigration court. All right. So that's good news. All right. Ooh, wow. Junior Muhammad says, can I write a letter of humanitarian grounds to expedite my asylum interview based on a bone marrow transplant? It sounds like that could be something. Yeah, it sounds like that could be something that could justify what we call a humanitarian expedite, or an expedite based on urgent humanitarian concerns. If you're dealing with cancer or something like that requires a bone marrow transplant, and if you are, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's tough. I'm hoping for the best for you. Okay. All right. McKinsey, who's that? Nice. All right, nice. Good afternoon, teacher, says Zhuzhong Shigao. Sorry for mispronouncing that, but good afternoon to you too. Teacher, I haven't called that one yet. That's nice. I like that. Thank you. I sent my case in months ago and I haven't heard anything back. Should I be worried? Good question. The question is this: should you be worried if you sent your asylum application into USCIS a long time ago, several months ago or more, and you haven't heard anything back from them yet? You haven't received that asylum receipt notice letter that says, hey, we got your application and we've accepted it and it's pending as of X date. Not if you applied by paper, by mail, on paper, by mail. Listen, you can apply for asylum with USCIS online or through the mail, like with actual physical paper. If you apply through mail with paper, it's going to take them several months to do this process where they input it, they take it, they input it into their systems, and they generate and send you the letter, this asylum receipt notice letter. That takes a long time. We've seen it in the last year. We've seen it take from like 5 to 10 months for that to happen. If you apply online, you get that receipt notice generated online, usually the same day or the next business day. So if you applied online and you haven't gotten it notice for months, that's a problem. But by mail, no, it's normal. This is one of the reasons why I strongly encourage people to apply online rather than by mail. Okay. Also, it's just better. You just can manage your case more easily with the online process, the online portal called the My USCIS portal that they use for online applications. All right, it's better. All right, let's see. Nice. Okay. Can I switch immigration lawyers before my asylum interview? Good question. The question is this: can you switch immigration lawyers while your case is pending an interview with USCIS? And the answer is, yeah, you can. It's easy. There's no problem. People do it all the time. It's not held against you. It doesn't look bad. No problem at all. How it works is when you hire a new lawyer, that new lawyer gets you to sign the form that says, hey, I want Brian to be my lawyer now. And the lawyer sends it into USCIS. And from that moment on, USCIS will only deal with your new lawyer. They won't contact or deal at all with your old lawyer. So it's really as simple as that. And they always accept it. It's not like they're going to reject, the new lawyer that you want. And it doesn't look bad or weird. It's not like fishy or suspicious or anything like that. It happens all the time. Super common, super easy. So listen, if you think someone else other than your current lawyer can give you a better chance for success in winning your case, then you should change. We're talking about your future here. We're talking about your safety, your security, and the future that you're trying to build in the United States. And so it's worth it to do whatever is necessary to get the best help possible, even if that means switching asylum lawyers. All right. Camel on YouTube says, do you do consultations, Brian? I'd like to get one. So listen, the question is this. So do I personally do consultations for my law firm? Not frequently, seldomly. We have a team of asylum professionals who are outstanding. I've trained them. They're professional. They're really good at this, at getting to know you and understanding you and your immigration goals and your case, and doing an analysis to see whether we think we're in a position to help you. And if so, explaining exactly how we're going to do that. They're great at this. That's who does most of our consultations. I do them sometimes, not frequently. For me, there is to talk with me. There's a fee for 50 minutes, 50. Currently, at the time I'm making this video, it's $350. I'm about to switch that. It's about to go up to $450. All right. But yeah, you can schedule with us at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com to schedule your consultation now. All right. I'm going to put that in the chat again. Consultations, winasylum.com. All right. That is it for today. Hope you all have a lovely day, a nice Thursday, a good Friday, and a good weekend. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through Asylum. We help people all over. All right. If you want to talk with us, we'd love to engage. We'd love to get to know you. We'd love to see if we think that we can support you. Okay. Go to winasylum.com to do that right now. Go to winasylum.com to schedule your asylum strategy session. The website is WINASYLUM.com. All right. Hope to talk with you guys soon. We'll see you on